So it couldn't be a school based upon the pursuit of truth, because that doesn't exist. And if there isn't any truth, then it couldn't be true that this is a school. It couldn't be a system. It's just a great big error. It's a self-contradiction. But there are lots of people who do that. And most of them hang out at the university. Most of them are professors. And we have to identify with their trouble. When they were young, they loved truth so much, and then they got so little of it that they have decided to annihilate truth. Disappointed life. So you run into somebody like that, buy them a beer. Take them out to lunch. Listen to their sad story. Okay? And you will be doing something useful. Right? But if you say, oh, no, you're wrong, and then you argue with them, well, that doesn't help at all. Because they don't have a position. There's nothing to argue with. Right? There is nothing there. Yes?
Before I get squarely in my head, could I be saying that what I'm hearing then is that their science, they didn't do the proper science work, enough legwork to discover what they were discovering?
That's part of the problem indeed. Right. You see, what Thales did when he said that it's all basically water was marvelous. We wouldn't want to lose anything that he did, but he was wrong. It's not basically water. So people hadn't done enough science to really get what is necessary. And therefore, what they built upon, these mistakes, turned out to be wrong.
So they could truly be believing that there is no truth?
No, they couldn't truly be believing that there is no truth.
Yes.
But what they could do is to make money by giving lectures to that effect.
Yes.
And see, that's what they did. Right? They would pick something that was exciting, that was different. You know, they would get up and say, there is no truth. Right? And they would give you beautiful examples of that. Right? If you look at a stick in the water, that was one of their favorite examples. Got some water here, got a stick here. Right? Looks bent. Then the sophist would grab hold of the stick, he would pull it out of the water in the air, and now it looks straight. They say, see, you cannot trust your senses. Well, this is a whiz-bang sort of experience, and people actually say, well, I guess I really can't trust myself. We'll have to think about that a little bit during the break, and we'll come back and see what Socrates did about it. Yes?
Would you give just a 30-second comment on Jesuit education? Obviously.
Sure.
Yeah, I thought Jesuits here were pretty Catholic, you know.
And there are some very Catholic Jesuits. However, there are also some who give the Catholic Church a bad name. And part of the problem has been that it's hard to tell. The Jesuits run 28 colleges or universities in the United States. And some of them they run very well. Others leave a lot to be desired. So
and a lot of them are CIA, aren't they? Or is that a rumor?
Could very well be. I don't know. And the thing is that they wouldn't advertise it.
Intelligence and alterations. CIA's cleaning, intelligence, and alterations. But CIA, it means like something like intelligence agency.
The Jesuits have
community
moved
intelligence
away from the teachings of the church. In some, I mean, you're suggesting that there's something wrong with them. They're falling in the, a guy like Clinton, his mom could send him there to learn a lot of skills, but the way they're presenting it, the skills are being served, but the force may not even be presented. It's sort of like trickery for the sake of trickery.
There's a big problem with that, right? And we have to be careful. When I say Jesuits, I don't mean a mathematical sense of Jesuit, which would be each and every one. There's some saints among them. Okay? There are also people like, what's his first name, Drinan, who served in Congress for a while, right? And who wrote position papers for Clinton, supporting abortion. That's not a very Catholic thing. Okay, here we have Drinan, S.J., doing it. So we've got saints and we've got other Jesuits.
In comparison with the commander-in-chief we have now and the one we had then, what's the comparison? Which of the two would be more?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to have to observe the incoming guy. But he seems to be an improvement. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, let's take a little break. We'll be back in 10:15. Thank you for sticking with all of this. It's something of a mental gymnastics, something to work on. And here's another little story, right? It turned out that a whole bunch of Clinton staffers, about 40 of them, were feeling sorry for themselves after Clinton was no longer president. Right? So they went out and they were having a sort of drunken orgy on this boat. Right? And the boat ran aground and sank and they all died. Right? So all 40 of them showed up at the same time at pearly gates. Right? They were all there and they wanted admission. Right? And St. Peter said, no, you've come to the wrong place. Right? But they had this very complicated legal document. Right? And Peter read that, and it was too much for this fisherman of Galilee. So he took it to God. And he said, look, there are these 40 guys out here, and they say that this document shows that they all deserve heaven. Right? So God looked through it and said, no, they're completely wrong. Tell them where they can go. Right? So he went back, and about 5 minutes later, he came running up to God. He said, they're gone, they're gone. So you mean the Clinton staffers? No, the pearly gates.
About the pearly gates. I really thought the pearly. What's this man that owns 58 billion, the richest man, 58 billion. His name is Gates, and somebody said it was Pearly Gates.
Bill Gates.
Oh, Bill Gates. Okay, that's all.
Right.
With your joke, does it mean they stole the gates?
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. They stole the gates.
I'm dying back here. The reverb was as good as the.
Did they use the processes we just learned?
Right. You see why philosophers have more fun. Now, the Sophists did a tremendous amount of harm. They are our classical example of harmful people who claim to be philosophers. And the really great philosophers are the ones who can grab hold of that harm and heal it. They are the ones who can take us out of that trouble. So Socrates is our great example of that. It was Socrates who showed the Sophists up. He demonstrated how wrong they were. And because he did that, they didn't like him at all. And as the Sophists tried to deal with him. First, they tried to embarrass him, but he was too humble to be embarrassed. He knew famous philosophical definition. Humility is one word: truth. Humility is truth. And because Socrates had a truthful view of who he was and what he was doing, he could no longer be embarrassed. He could no longer be shown up for the error that he was promoting, because he wasn't promoting anything. See, this is how you can really make somebody look bad. When you reveal, right, that this person who says, "I never touch alcohol," was drunk last Saturday night. So because Socrates was so together, because he had everything in his life organized, the Sophists who tried the regular attacks against the regular hypocrites were thoroughly frustrated by Socrates. They couldn't get any angle on him. They couldn't find his basic lie, because he didn't have any. And for many, many years, the Sophists failed to get anywhere with Socrates. Now, to make it even worse, Socrates, because he was devoted to the truth, because that was all he cared about, right, he was able to develop great virtues. He was never drunk. He was never afraid. And all those descriptions that I give you in the handout, particularly the one by Alcibiades, where he talks about all these wonderful things that Socrates could do, see? These are just sort of explosions of, wow, isn't this guy great? And you can see how, in the society of the time, where there were people of different sizes, Socrates stood out. Socrates was so much more of a human being than these other folks that he was outstanding. He never got drunk, even if he drank more wine than the other people. In fact, at the end of the symposium, when people had been dining and talking and drinking all night, it was Socrates who laid the drunks out flat so they wouldn't wake up with a crick in their neck, and who offered the morning prayers to God and went to work. Socrates was a cobbler. What do cobblers make? Shoes. And that's what he did. And he worked through the day. This is what Alcibiades admired about him. This is what everybody admired about him. Because Socrates was that kind of guy, see, he elevates our notion of philosophy. He brings it up, and he shows us something very important, that a true philosopher is not only smart, but he's virtuous.